We found this statement on the Seed and Spark website. If you add up the cable bills, the video streaming subscriptions, and all of the movie tickets sold, Americans spend $120 billion, which calculates to $396 each, on video entertainment in 2012. And somewhere between 80 to 90% of that money went to the companies that delivered the content, not to the actual artists that created those films.
Correct.
Where do you see the future of filmmaking and distribution in the next 5 to 10 years? That being said.
So we're already seeing it be massively disintermediated, right? Which means you don't need 3 or 4 gatekeepers in between you and your audience anymore. Thanks to this thing, right, you can reach your audience directly. It has never been true before that the tools that Beyonce and the President of the United States use to reach their audience, you also have in your pocket. Like, I don't think people still have fully comprehended the power in that alone, that the authoring tools that are available to the most famous, most prestigious, and wealthiest are also available to you and me, right? Which is not to say you are not yourself extraordinarily prestigious. I think the disintermediation is tremendous. I also think it will become way more decentralized. So because these tools are available, look, I just spent 35 days, I went to 26 cities, and I met people in Memphis and Houston and South Jordan, Utah, and Bellingham, Washington. And there are filmmakers in all of these places who don't want to move, have no interest of paying the rents that we pay in Los Angeles or that we pay in New York, or even honestly that you pay in Austin, Texas. And they want to make films, and they could make a really good living for themselves at $60,000 a year, right? So if your ambition is not to become rich and famous with filmmaking, but to make the work that's really meaningful to you and get it to an audience to whom it is also really meaningful, I believe that pretty soon we will see people, we will actually see the rise of a creative middle class in the film industry that is not in New York and LA, because it's too flippin' expensive to live there. But actually, you know, if you could make 5 films a year, one of which is yours, 4 of which are ones that you're working on your friends, and they're $100,000 or $120,000 budgets, some are bigger, some are smaller, you know, you keep yourselves sort of furiously dedicated to making the most excellent versions of the things. You rely on your peers to make you better. You use every technology available to you to make it inexpensively and to connect directly with the audiences to whom it matters along the way. I think we will see filmmakers making a sustainable living. And again, I don't mean getting rich and famous. I do mean maybe making enough money to feed their families and hopefully make little artist babies and make, you know, more empathic people in the world. Yeah, so I think it's the way that everything is going, right? Much more decentralized, much more disintermediated. I think there's some big, big question marks out there that are a little scary, right? Like? So, you know, we have this question out there about net neutrality, and of course net neutrality would be very bad for a company like Seed, the lack of net neutrality would be very bad for a company like Seed and Spark. But, you know, Google is out there laying fiber all over the world, and they might effectively create a 2-tier internet if their fiber is way faster than the stuff that's currently available to us through our crappy cable companies, right? And if they effectively create a 2-tier internet just out of like convenience, we have to hope that they really meant it when they said don't be evil, right? That's one piece of it. And I think there are some corporations out there that are creating conglomerates that are putting a lot of pressure on the way that the distribution business can build and grow. I think lack of data is very damaging to us right now. If I could leave behind a legacy that I would be most proud of, it would be in sort of spearheading or joining or encouraging the effort to get companies like Netflix to release the viewership data to the filmmakers, so the filmmakers had any hope of building better business models based on the data that Netflix is collecting. I think it's at this point, if your user data is your only competitive advantage, you better think about what you're offering to people. So I think it's really, really essential for us to, as filmmakers and artists, demand that we get the most data we can get so we can learn about the audiences, how they view, what it means to them, where they're viewing things to whatever extent we can, so that we can build smarter business models. I think if we continue to sort of beat our head against the wall of like, I'm gonna make a movie for 3 million with stars in it, and I'm gonna take it to a big festival and whatever, we'll have a lot of really disappointed, disenfranchised artists, because a few people will get to do that, and you know, the rest of the folks who are trying to do that will sort of fall by the wayside. I think we have to be highly educated in the tools that are available to us to dominate our independent careers. They are available. Those tools are available. We now have to demand the data. I think that, you know, is an essential component of it. And provided we don't have sort of a tyrant two-tier internet, or we don't lose net neutrality altogether, I think we can rely on the distribution getting, you know, faster, cheaper, better all the time, because that's what the audience demands ultimately, you know.
So this middle-class artist, how do you envision them being paid? From, if they're going direct to the consumer, in this theoretical 5 to 10 year landscape, how do you see them?
Well, if they can go direct to consumer, I think there's a proliferation now of platforms who are sharing the lion's share of the revenue directly with the filmmaker. We're 80-20, the filmmakers keep 80, we keep 20. And we're not the only one like that. I think it comes from, disintermediating the distribution funds, right? So not having quite so many people in between you and the money that your audience is spending to see your stuff. I think it comes from working on your friends' projects. I think it's an amalgam of, I work on my friends' movies and everybody gets paid some piece of it, and I make back end on those films and I make back end on my films because there's back end to be made because we're doing this in a more disintermediated environment. I think it probably comes from brand patronage. I think brands are really waking up to the fact that it's not about branded content. It is about associating your brand with the content that audiences are really excited about. This is another opportunity that's totally opened up to you that you don't have if you don't have the direct relationship to your audience. You have a direct relationship with an audience that a brand is interested in. They will pay you money so that you talk favorably about that brand to your audience. And they're willing to do it in more and more creative ways. So, and we've proven this. I mean, Bright Ideas magazine started because we convinced a brand that we had access to an audience that they wanted to associate with really cool content that they didn't have any say over, that we could associate their name with. Brands are really looking for ways to be prestigious and meaningful. This is the other thing, is like, people think that brand is a bad word or that brands are sort of inherently selling out. No, in fact, there are lots of brands out there that really want to be a part of this movement to empower artists to make really cool, important, meaningful stuff.